My husband was cheating on me with my own sister while I was 8 months pregnant. I found the proof and they are not ready for it. They thought they were coming to a party to celebrate a new life. They had no idea they were walking into the public funeral for their reputations. Before I begin my story, let me know in the comments where you are listening from and what time it is. I just want to know, I'm not alone in this. And if you feel moved by what you hear, consider subscribing. It helps more people become aware of the reality of women abuse. Now let me tell you what really happened. My name is Alicia Hayes, and at 32 years old, I was living inside a beautiful, carefully constructed snow globe. The house was a pristine 2-story colonial with gleaming hardwood floors, the one I'd put the down payment on myself from my own savings before Marcus and I even married, a testament to my success as a graphic designer. The nursery was painted a soft, buttery yellow, a tranquil sea of hope awaiting its new occupant. My husband, Marcus, handsome and charming at 34, was a rising star in his sales firm, the very picture of a doting father-to-be. And my sister, Jasmine, my fierce, funny, indispensable Jasmine, was my rock. At 28, she was the beautiful, chaotic counterpoint to my quiet, organized life, and she was at my house almost every day helping me plan the perfect baby shower. Life was, by all accounts, perfect. A little too perfect, perhaps. Like a movie set, beautiful and bright, but with unseen cables and scaffolding just out of frame. The only slight dissonance in my perfect world was Marcus's work schedule. The late nights at the office had become more frequent in the last few months of my pregnancy. He'd come home long after I was asleep, smelling faintly of a sophisticated, unfamiliar cologne, a sandalwood and citrus scent so different from the clean, fresh fragrance he usually wore. When I asked about it once, he just laughed. "Oh, that's probably from Bob Henderson in the corner office. The man practically bathes in this stuff." I was a trusting wife, a happy, expectant mother. I chose to believe him. The alternative was unthinkable. My sister Jasmine was my everything. She was the one I called after every doctor's appointment, the one who held my hand when the morning sickness was unbearable. Our bond, I thought, was unbreakable, forged in the fires of a shared childhood and a deep, abiding love. I had always been the responsible older sister, the one who helped her out of scrapes, who co-signed for her first car. "What would I do without you, Jazz?" I'd said to her just a week before the shower, as we sat amidst a sea of pastel-colored gift bags. She'd squeezed my hand, her smile bright. "You'll never have to find out, big sis. I'm here for you, for Marcus, for my new little nibbling. Always." But as she said it, her eyes had darted for just a second towards the new, expensive designer handbag Marcus had surprised me with, a flicker of something I couldn't quite name. Envy? Resentment? Before her warm smile returned, I dismissed it as a trick of the light, a fleeting shadow. The week of the baby shower was a blur of happy anticipation. The caterers confirmed, the balloons were ordered. A mountain of beautifully wrapped gifts began to accumulate in the corner of the living room. My parents were flying in, Marcus's parents too. The house hummed with a joyful energy. It was the culmination of all my dreams. A successful career, a beautiful home, a loving husband, a supportive sister, and a new life about to begin. I stood in the doorway of the yellow nursery, my hands on my swollen belly, and felt a wave of gratitude so profound it brought tears to my eyes. I was living in a snow globe and the scene inside was perfect. I just didn't realize someone was about to pick it up, shake it with a vicious, violent force, and watch the whole pretty picture shatter into a million irreparable pieces. The betrayal wasn't coming from an outside force, a shadowy intruder I might have feared. It was already inside my house. It was smiling at me across the dinner table. It was sleeping in my bed. And it was holding my hand, telling me it would be there for me always. The day before the baby shower was a symphony of last-minute preparations. The floral arrangements arrived, filling the house with the sweet scent of lilies and roses. My best friend Maya came over to help me arrange the gift table. Marcus was out for most of the day, a final, crucial client lunch, he'd said. Jasmine was supposed to be there to help, but she'd called that morning, her voice sounding strangely strained, saying she had a last-minute errand to run for the party but would be over later. Around 3 in the afternoon, feeling the familiar weight of third trimester exhaustion, I sat down on the sofa with my phone. My colleagues from the design firm had sent a famously extravagant gift basket, and I wanted to make sure the delivery had been made to the porch without issue. I opened my home security app, a routine, almost mindless action. The camera angle for the front porch was clear. I scrubbed back through the timeline, watching the mailman come and go, a package from my aunt being delivered. And there it was, around noon. The delivery of a massive basket overflowing with ribbons and gourmet treats. Perfect. I was about to close the app when a flicker of movement from the previous night caught my eye. It was from the living room camera, the one positioned on the bookshelf, offering a clear, wide view of the room and, more importantly, a direct line of sight down the hallway towards our master bedroom. Curiosity, idle and innocent, got the better of me. I scrubbed back to around 11:30 p.m. after I had gone to bed, exhausted. The footage was grainy in the low light, but undeniable. The timestamp read 11:42 p.m. The hallway light clicked on. And then I saw them. Marcus, my husband, his back to the camera. And Jasmine, my sister, her face turned slightly towards the lens, a look on her face I couldn't quite decipher. A mixture of excitement and something else, something furtive. Marcus's hand was on her waist. Her hand was on his chest. They weren't just talking. They were wrapped in a silent, intimate embrace, the kind reserved for lovers. My breath caught in my throat. It felt like the air had been punched from my lungs. No, it couldn't be. A misunderstanding. A strange angle. A trick of the light. My fingers, now trembling, flew across the screen, scrubbing back further to other nights. 2 nights ago. 3 nights ago. A week ago. And the story unfolded, a silent, sickening horror movie starring the 2 people I loved most in the world. There they were again and again. A whispered conversation in the kitchen long after I was asleep. A lingering touch in the hallway. And then, the most damning footage of all from the previous week. The living room camera again. Timestamp. 1:17 a.m. Marcus in his pajama pants. Jasmine in a silk robe I'd never seen before. They weren't talking. They were kissing. A deep, passionate, lingering kiss that spoke not of a fleeting mistake, but of a long-standing, comfortable intimacy. And then, his arm around her, they disappeared together down the hallway into the master bedroom. My bedroom. Our bed. The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering onto the hardwood floor. A sound, a small, sharp crack, echoed in the silent house, a sound that mirrored the shattering of my entire world. The betrayal was so profound, so absolute, it defied comprehension. My husband, my sister, my best friend, the one who had held my hair back during morning sickness, who had helped me pick out paint colors for the nursery, who had listened to my fears and dreams about becoming a mother. All of it a lie. Their concern, their love, their support. It was all a grotesque performance, a charade they played while I, the pregnant, trusting fool, slept just a few feet away. Every late night at the office, every business trip Marcus had taken, every errand Jasmine had run, it all replayed in my mind, now cast in a sinister, ugly new light. The little inconsistencies, the strained notes in their voices, the things my trusting heart had so readily dismissed, now coalesced into a monstrous, undeniable truth. I stumbled into the nursery, my hand pressed against my swollen belly, a wave of nausea so intense it almost buckled my knees. The room, once a symbol of my deepest joy and hope, now felt like a mausoleum. The soft yellow walls, the little rocking chair, the tiny onesies folded neatly in the dresser. It was all built on a foundation of lies. This perfect life, this perfect family I thought I was creating for my child, was a sham. The initial shock, the raw, searing pain of a doubly broken heart, was a physical thing. It was a pressure in my chest, a roaring in my ears. I wanted to scream, to smash things, to call them both and unleash a torrent of rage and pain. But then as I looked at the small, empty crib, a different feeling began to surface, pushing through the agony. It was a cold, quiet, and utterly ferocious fury. A mother's fury. They had done this in my home. They had done this while I carried their son, their nephew, their flesh and blood. They had made a mockery of my love, my trust, my pregnancy. They had treated me and the new life I was nurturing with a contempt so profound it was almost inhuman. They thought I was just a happy, oblivious incubator for their perfect family. They thought they could get away with it. They were wrong. Tomorrow was my baby shower. A celebration of new life. And I decided in that moment with a clarity that was as cold and as sharp as a shard of broken glass, that it would be exactly that. The birth of my new life. And the public, spectacular death of theirs. For the next few hours I was a ghost in my own home, A vessel for a pain so immense it felt like it should have a physical weight. The festive pastel-colored decorations for the baby shower seemed to mock me from every corner. The mountain of beautifully wrapped gifts in the living room looked like a funeral pyre for my dead marriage, my dead relationship with my sister. My first instinct was to burn it all down. To call my parents, to call Marcus's parents, to call every single person on the guest list and unleash the ugly, devastating truth. I wanted to scream, to rage, to make them feel a fraction of the agony that was tearing me apart. But as I sat on the floor of the yellow nursery, my back against the crib that would soon hold my son, a different instinct began to take over. It was the part of me that had spent years as a graphic designer, a creator of clean, logical systems. The part of me that valued precision, strategy, and undeniable proof. A hysterical, tearful phone call would be messy. It would be my word against theirs. And I knew them. I knew how they would react. They would deny it. They would gaslight me. They would call me emotional, hormonal, a crazy pregnant woman seeing things that weren't there. They would twist my pain into a performance of my own instability. No, that would not do. My heartbreak, a wild, raging storm, began to cool, to crystallize into something sharp, cold, and diamond hard. A plan. A plan for a revenge so complete, so public, so irrefutable, that they would have nowhere to hide. The baby shower was their stage, a celebration of their perfect family. I would not cancel it. I would let them perform upon it right up until the final devastating act. And I would be the director. I retrieved my phone from where it had fallen, my hand surprisingly steady. I went back to the security footage, my heart a cold, methodical drum. I wasn't just a weeping wife anymore. I was an archivist, a prosecutor, gathering evidence. I found the most damning clips. The 1:17 a.m. kiss in the hallway, clear, passionate, undeniable. The footage of them sneaking into my bedroom together. A clip from a week earlier in the kitchen, where Marcus's hands lingered on Jasmine's waist for a moment too long, his back to the camera, her face for a split second holding a look of smug, secret satisfaction. With the dispassionate precision of a designer working on a difficult project, I began to work. I downloaded the clips. I used the simple video editing software on my laptop, a tool I knew as well as my own name. I wasn't interested in fancy effects or dramatic music. I just needed the truth, unvarnished and brutal. I stitched the clips together, a chronological montage of their betrayal. The hallway embrace, the stolen kiss, the secret entry into my bedroom. I ended it with a simple, stark title card I created myself, just white text on a black screen. Congratulations, Marcus and Jasmine. I exported the final video, a short 1-minute horror film, and saved it to my desktop under a simple, misleading name, Gender Reveal Surprise. The fury, I realized, was a powerful anesthetic. It numbed the pain, replaced the tears with a chilling, focused energy. They thought I was fragile, emotional. They had no idea that beneath the surface of the happy, expectant mother was a woman of immense control. A woman who could compartmentalize her own shattering grief to orchestrate their downfall. The final piece of my plan required an ally. I couldn't do this alone. I needed a witness, an anchor, someone to stand by my side when the inevitable explosion occurred. I scrolled through my contacts and found her name, Maya. My best friend since college. A woman with a spine of steel and a fierce, unwavering loyalty. I called her. Alicia, hey, getting excited for tomorrow? Her cheerful voice came down the line. Maya, I said, my own voice low, controlled. I need you to come over. No, something has happened. Something terrible. When she arrived 20 minutes later, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply turned the laptop around and pressed play. I watched her face as she saw what I had seen. Her initial confusion, her dawning horror, her sharp intake of breath at the sight of the kiss. Her face hardening into a mask of pure protective fury when she saw them disappear into my bedroom. When the video ended, she was silent for a long moment. Then she looked at me, her eyes blazing. That no-good cheating son of a... And Jasmine? Your own sister? Believe it. I am going to kill them. No, I said, my voice quiet. You're not. You're going to come to the baby shower tomorrow. You're going to smile and be polite. You're going to be my rock. And you're going to watch with me when I burn their world to the ground. A slow, almost predatory smile spread across Maya's face. Okay, she said. Hey, what do you need me to do? We stayed up late planning the logistics. She would bring a small, discreet USB drive with a copy of the video just in case. She would stand near the television ready to help me connect the laptop. She would be the one to call a taxi for me when it was all over, to get me and my overnight bag safely to her place. She would be my witness, my getaway driver. As she left, she hugged me tight. "Are you sure you can do this, Alicia?" she whispered. I looked at the closed door of the nursery, at the soft yellow walls, at the small, perfect world I had built on a foundation of lies. "I have to," I said, my voice hard as stone. "For my baby. For me. They think they can humiliate me in private and celebrate in public. Tomorrow I'm going to show them what true humiliation looks like. And everyone is invited to watch." The morning of my baby shower arrived with a cruel, beautiful clarity. The sun streamed through my windows, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, each one a tiny spotlight on the wreckage of my life. I had not slept. I had sat in the silent nursery, my hand on my belly, and felt not the joyful kicks of my son, but the cold, hard resolve of a woman preparing for war. My parents and Jasmine arrived first, my mother bustling in with a giant foil-covered casserole dish, my father carrying a ridiculously large teddy bear. "Happy shower day, my sweet girl," my mother chirped, enveloping me in a hug that felt both comforting and now laced with a tragic irony. She had no idea. Jasmine followed, her face a perfect mask of sisterly devotion. "You look radiant, Alicia," she gushed, handing me a beautifully wrapped gift. "Just glowing." She hugged me, her cheek against mine, and as she pulled away, I caught a faint, familiar scent. It was the same sophisticated sandalwood and citrus cologne I had occasionally smelled on Marcus during his late nights at the office. My blood ran cold. It was the final, sickening confirmation I didn't even know I needed. My stomach churned, but I forced a smile. "Thank you, Jess. I'm so glad you're here." The words tasted like poison. Then came Marcus, my husband, the co-star of my nightmare. He kissed me, a quick proprietary peck on the cheek, his hand resting possessively on my swollen belly. "Look at my two beautiful babies," he said, loud enough for my parents to hear, his voice full of a feigned pride that made my stomach churn. He was a magnificent actor. They both were. The guests began to arrive in a steady stream, filling my home with cheerful chatter, laughter, and the rustle of expensive wrapping paper. Marcus's parents, beaming with pride for their first grandchild. My aunts and uncles, my cousins, my friends from work, all of them bearing gifts and well wishes, their faces alight with genuine happiness for me, for us. And with every hug, every congratulations, every shared smile, the ice around my heart grew thicker, my resolve harder. They were all witnesses, unwitting audience members to the final devastating act of a play whose script only I now held. I put on the performance of a lifetime. I was the perfect hostess, the glowing, grateful mother-to-be. I laughed at jokes, admired every tiny pair of booties, every soft, cuddly blanket. I made small talk, accepted compliments on the decorations Jasmine had so wonderfully helped me with, and moved through the crowd with a serene smile that was a masterpiece of self-control. Maya, my loyal friend, never left my side, her presence a silent, steadying force. Our eyes would meet occasionally across the crowded room, a brief, shared glance of understanding that fueled my strength. I watched Marcus and Jasmine navigate the party with a sickening, practiced ease. They were the perfect brother-in-law and sister-in-law, the supportive family unit. They would stand together, laughing, their shoulders occasionally brushing, a secret intimacy hiding in plain sight that only I could now see. I saw him whisper something in her ear and her throw her head back in a throaty laugh, her hand briefly touching his arm. It was a small gesture, one that would have meant nothing to me 2 days ago. Now it was like watching a snake shed its skin. The most surreal moment came during the gift opening. I sat in the chair of honor, a mountain of presents before me. Marcus knelt beside me, handing me each gift, while Jasmine sat on the floor at my feet, diligently writing down who gave what for the thank you notes. They were the perfect supportive family. It was a grotesque, beautiful tableau of deceit. My mother, her eyes shining with tears, handed me her gift. "From your father and me, darling," she said. "We're so proud of you." Inside was a handmade quilt, stitched with tiny, intricate patterns, a family heirloom that had been passed down for generations. It was a gift of love, of history, of continuity. And I, its new keeper, was about to preside over the complete and utter shattering of our family. I held the quilt to my chest, my own tears starting to fall. Real tears this time, tears of a profound, heartbreaking sorrow for the innocence that had been lost, for the trust that had been so brutally betrayed. "Are you all right, darling?" my mother asked, her face full of concern. Marcus and Jasmine looked up at me, their own faces masks of solicitous worry. "Pregnancy hormones," Marcus murmured to a nearby guest with a knowing, indulgent chuckle. "No," I said, looking up, my gaze sweeping over their faces, over the faces of my friends, my family. I took a deep, shuddering breath, then composed myself, my expression shifting from sorrow to a calm, almost unnerving serenity. "No, I'm fine. Just overwhelmed with emotion." I gave them all a bright, brittle smile. "And speaking of being overwhelmed, I think it's time for our little gender reveal surprise, don't you?" A cheer went up from the crowd. Marcus and Jasmine beamed, their performance reaching its crescendo. They had no idea. They thought this was their moment of triumph, the final, perfect scene in their domestic play. They had no idea that the curtain was about to fall, and the stage was about to be consumed by fire. My fire. The air in my living room crackled with anticipation. The guests, full of cake and cheerful speculation, gathered around the large flat-screen television above the fireplace. My parents stood nearby, their arms around each other, their faces alight with the pure, uncomplicated joy of soon-to-be grandparents. Marcus's parents were beaming, ready to learn if their family name would be carried on by a boy. And Marcus and Jasmine, my two betrayers, positioned themselves on either side of me, playing their roles to perfection. Marcus's hand rested on my shoulder, a gesture of proud ownership. Jasmine squeezed my arm, whispering, "I'm so excited for you, Alicia. I can't wait to find out if I'm getting a nephew or a niece." Her hypocrisy was so breathtaking, so audacious, it almost made me laugh. Maya, my loyal friend, stood near the entertainment center, giving me a small, almost imperceptible nod. The laptop was connected. The video file was ready. All I had to do was press play. "All right, everyone," I announced, my voice surprisingly clear and steady, resonating through the hushed room. "Thank you all for being here to share this incredibly special day with us. Marcus and I are so excited to finally share our big news." I looked at my husband, my sister, their faces glowing with fake affection, and I felt a wave of icy calm wash over me. The pain was still there, a hot, agonizing core deep within me, but it was now encased in a thick layer of righteous fury. "Instead of balloons or a cake," I continued, my gaze sweeping across the expectant faces of my family and friends, "I put together a little video. It reveals a very big secret, one that will certainly change our family forever." A murmur of delighted curiosity went through the crowd. Marcus squeezed my shoulder, a proud husband indulging his wife's creative whims. "That's my girl," he whispered. "Always so clever." "Yes," I said, looking him directly in the eye, my voice as cold and as sharp as a shard of glass. "I am." I turned back to the screen and, with a final, steadying breath, I pressed the play button on the small remote I held in my hand. The screen flickered to life. But there was no cute animation, no ultrasound photo, no countdown set to joyful music. There was only the grainy, low-light footage from my living room security camera, time-stamped 1:17 a.m. from the previous week. For a split second there was confusion in the room. Then the figures of Marcus and Jasmine came into sharp focus. The first gasp came from my mother, a sharp, wounded sound. On the screen, my husband and my sister were wrapped in a passionate embrace. They kissed, not a friendly peck but a deep, lingering kiss of forbidden intimacy. The room fell into a stunned, horrified silence, punctuated only by the faint, tinny sound of their whispered endearments captured by the camera's microphone. The video cut to another scene. Them in the hallway, his hand on her waist, her head on his shoulder, as they disappeared together into the master bedroom. My bedroom. Another gasp, this one from Marcus's mother, sharp and angry. I saw her turn to glare at her son, her face a mask of fury. The montage continued for a torturous, undeniable 60 seconds. A stolen touch in the kitchen. A secret kiss behind the garage door. Each clip was a nail hammered into the coffin of their lies. Finally, the screen went black and the words I had typed appeared in stark white letters. "Congratulations, Marcus and Jasmine." The silence that followed was absolute, profound, suffocating. It was as if all the air had been sucked out of the room. No one moved. No one breathed. Then slowly, as if waking from a trance, every single head in that room turned, not to the screen, but to the two figures frozen beside me. Marcus's face was ashen, a deathly gray. His mouth was open but no sound came out. His hand, which had been resting on my shoulder, had dropped to his side as if he'd been burned. Jasmine was even worse. Her face was a grotesque mask of pure, unadulterated terror, her skin a waxy, translucent white, her eyes wide with the horror of a creature caught in the unforgiving glare of a hunter's spotlight. My father was the first to move. He took a single deliberate step towards Marcus, his face a thundercloud of a rage so immense it seemed to vibrate in the air. My mother just stared at Jasmine, her own daughter, with an expression of such profound, heartbreaking disappointment that it was almost harder to watch than the betrayal itself. Then the chaos erupted. Marcus's father let out a roar of pure fury, pointing a trembling finger at his son. "You did this? In her house? While she's carrying your child?" Jasmine's own friends were staring at her with looks of disgust, backing away as if she were contagious. The room, which had been filled with so much joy just moments before, was now a courtroom, and the verdict had just been delivered in high definition for all to see. Marcus finally found his voice, a pathetic, stammering whisper. "Alicia, it's not, we can explain." Jasmine just stood there, her body trembling, silent tears of pure, panicked shame beginning to stream down her face. I looked at them both, at the wreckage of their deceit, at the shattered faces of our families. And I felt nothing. The pain, the rage, it had all been poured into that video, into that single decisive act of truth-telling. Now there was only a cold, empty calm. My performance was over. And their public execution was just beginning. The stunned silence in my living room finally shattered, not with a single explosion, but with a series of sharp, painful cracks as my family and my life broke apart. My father, his face a mask of cold, controlled fury, walked directly up to Marcus. "Get out," he said, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. "Get out of my daughter's house. Now." But then something I hadn't anticipated, something that showed me the true, insidious depth of their arrogance happened. Marcus's mother, her face a mixture of shame and a fierce, misguided maternal protectiveness, stepped between them. "Now let's not be hasty," she began, her voice trembling. "There are two sides to every story. Boys will be boys." And that's when Jasmine, my sister, saw her opening. Her terror, her shame, it all curdled into a desperate, manipulative performance. She collapsed into a heap on the floor, her sobs hysterical, theatrical, her hands clutching at her chest. "She's twisting it. She's twisting everything," she shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at me. "Alicia has always been jealous of me. Always. Marcus was just comforting me. I was upset, I was emotional, and he was being a good brother-in-law. And she, with her pregnancy hormones, she's crazy. She's making this all up to ruin me." The audacity of her lie was breathtaking. Marcus, seeing his own mother move to defend him, seized on the narrative Jasmine was so brilliantly, so despicably spinning. He rushed to Jasmine's side, helping her up, playing the part of the noble, long-suffering husband. "See," he said to the fractured room, his voice full of a pained, martyred sincerity. "See what I have to deal with? Her paranoia, her accusations. I was just talking to my sister-in-law. She's been so supportive during this difficult time. Alicia she gets these ideas in her head." The room, which had been so united in its horror just moments before, now fractured completely. My parents, my loyal friend Maya, a few of my closest cousins, rushed to my side, their faces blazing with protective fury. But Marcus's family, his parents, his brother, his aunts and uncles, began to close ranks around him. I could see it in their eyes, the desperate need to believe a less monstrous version of the truth, to save face, to protect their own. I heard his aunt whisper, "Well, pregnant women can be very emotional." His father gave me a hard, accusatory look, as if I were the one who had brought this shame upon their family by making it public. They weren't denying the video, they were attacking me for showing it. My baby shower, my celebration of new life, devolved into a shouting match. Accusations flew across the room. My father was yelling at Marcus's father. My mother was weeping, looking at Jasmine with an expression of utter betrayal. Friends, caught in the crossfire, began to make hasty, awkward exits, their eyes full of pity and embarrassment. It was Maya who finally got me out of there. She packed an overnight bag for me with a ruthless efficiency, grabbed my purse and steered me through the wreckage of my own party, my own life, leaving the two warring factions of my family to tear each other apart. In the end, I won the war, if you could call it that. The video evidence was undeniable, at least for any impartial observer. The divorce was swift and brutal. The house, which I had bought with my own money before our marriage and had insisted on keeping solely in my name, a decision my younger self had made for reasons of financial prudence that my older self now saw as a divine intervention, remained mine. Marcus was forced to move out, his legal attempts to claim a share thwarted by the very clear evidence of his adultery. Jasmine became a ghost. Our parents, heartbroken, were forced to choose sides. My relationship with her is gone, a casualty of her jealousy and his weakness. I hear she has moved to another state, her reputation in our community shattered beyond repair among those who know the truth. But the victory feels hollow, achingly so. I kept the house, yes. I have my beautiful baby boy, my sweet little Noah, who is my entire world. But I lost so much more. I lost the sister I thought was my best friend. I lost the husband I loved. And I lost parts of my extended family, the ones who chose to believe the comfortable lie over the ugly truth, who blamed me for the scandal instead of them for the sin. Some nights, after Noah is asleep, his small body warm against my chest, I sit alone in the quiet yellow nursery, the moonlight streaming through the window. I am strong. I am a survivor. I have my son, my home, my dignity. But the applause from my gender reveal surprise has long since faded, leaving only the quiet echoing silence of a family irrevocably broken. I won. I got my justice. But sometimes in the dead of night I wonder what exactly I was fighting for, and if the price of revealing my truth was worth